Jai Hind friends, I'm Major Gaurav and you're watching the Chanakya Dialogues, English. The past 10 years on YouTube and they say that any time now India can cross the border. Any time now. India should have crossed. This guy is actually looking at his watch. And I swear I'm not making, there's nothing hasty about it. This man is a criminal, this man is a murderer, he has killed security forces, he is admitted to killing Kashmiri Pandits, this man must die. Jai Hind friends, I'm Major Gaurav and you're watching the Chanakya Dialogues, English. Like this video, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to press the bell icon. Especially those friends who watch our videos every day but do not subscribe. I would request you to please subscribe to our channel. It motivates us to do better and better each day. Now, there is some great news from the Army, Navy and the Air Force. And apparently in a bid for jointness, if I can put it very simply, is the ability of the Army, Navy and Air Force to fight together as a single cohesive unit. That is what jointness is. It's actually much, much more than that, but I think I'm oversimplifying here just to explain a very complicated issue. So what is happening is that cross-staffing of Army officers to IAF, Navy soon. This is what the Indian Express has said. In this, they say that in a major step towards bringing integration in the Indian military and creation of theatre commands, a large batch of around 40 Army officers will soon be posted in the Indian Air Force and Navy establishments where they would perform similar roles as they do in the Army, the Indian Express has learned. Top officials told the Indian Express that the Army officers who are part of the cross-staffing posting are at the executive level in the ranks of Major and Lieutenant Colonel, and they'll go to the Air Force and the Navy, as I've mentioned before, and what they're going to do is they're going to handle UAVs, which are essentially drones of various kinds, armed and unarmed, reconnaissance. They're going to do logistics, repair, recovery, material and supplies management, among other roles. And this is possible because this whole UAV thing and supply material, radar, missiles is something that is done in the Army also, and the communication systems are not very different of the Army, Navy and Air Force. It's easy for Army officer to go and sort of, understand his job there and sort of get hands-on experience there. It's not going to be very tough for him. He can get experience in terms of working in a naval environment or an Air Force environment. Now, there are 2-3 things that I'd like to mention. First of all, there are many duties that are non-technical in nature. When I say non-technical, I mean specific to that service. So there are technical things that the Army person would understand, any Army person would understand in the Navy or in the Air Force. And similarly, the Navy and the Air Force will understand it in the Army. There are certain tasks which are similar, but 80% of the tasks are, of a nature that these are highly specialized to various services. Like, for example, the Air Force, of course, you can't have an Army guy flying planes. That won't work out, right? Similarly, infantry duties or firing of a tank or operating of a gun, the Navy and the Air Force will not be able to do. So there are clearly defined tasks for each. But if we want to achieve proper integration between the 3 services, I would like to recommend that we go a step further, and I think a little bit of radical thinking is called for. There are people who are more qualified than I am. There are people who are far more experienced than I am, who would be able to tell you better whether what I'm saying will work or not. But I'm just recommending a few things because I think personally that it will be a great idea, because not just logistical integration, not just integration of war fighting or theatre commands, also emotional integration. I'm talking about emotional integration. I'm not talking about theaterization, because that is something that is looked after by the CDS, General Anil Chauhan. He is the individual, he's the officer who is driving all this, and he knows better. I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about emotional integration. And I think one thing which we could do, rather than going into detail, I've covered this in detail in the Hindi segment of the Chanakya Dialogues. But here I'd just say that, we need to go a step further. And the way we go a step further is that rather than just saying that, you will do these duties which are mandated, something that is very, very close to any senior officer is also the generals who are there, the admirals who are there, the air marshals who are there, something very close to them are their staff officers, their immediate staff. Now, the staff in and around a corps commander or an army commander can be of various types, There are some things that can be managed by people from other arms and services, and there are some things that are hardcore specialization. right? Like, it's very important that a Colonel GS know everything, because a Colonel GS, everything revolves around him at that level. At that level, everything will revolve around him, and he's like a kind of an advisor, and he would know everything. So you can't obviously have somebody like that from the Air Force or the Navy, but there are so many other things like the Brig IW or Colonel IW, and there are even the staff officer, and at a very senior level, even the ADCs. I don't see any harm. Of course, there is this regimentation thing that generally people prefer, that people from their own units and their own regiments are there. But in case of General Rawat, I remember that there used to be an officer who was, he used to manage the entire chief secretariat, and he was not from the Gorkha Rifles. He was from artillery. At that time, he was Brigadier Agarwal. Now he's Major General Agarwal, and I think he was MS to the chief or MA to the, I forget his appointment, but a very fine officer, very fine gentleman, and professional, and he's now a Major General, and he was the one. He's from artillery, and he was managing it. Ladies and gentlemen, General Y.K. Joshi was another army commander. There was one Colonel Harshvardhan Singh who was from mechanized infantry, who was a staff officer, and who was, I don't again remember his appointment, but I met him so many times, and he's a friend. He's now a brigadier, and he was managing it. So this has happened. Normally, the preference is somebody from my unit or from my regiment, but there are generals who have done it. I've seen it in case of General Y.K. Joshi. I've seen it in the case of General Rawat. I've seen that. And why not take it a step further? In some cases, I'm not saying all cases, because it's not possible. There is technical knowledge required also, but there are some appointments. Why can't the army commander have an ADC who's from the Navy or the Air Force? Yes, there'll be a lot of objection to what I'm saying, but we need to push it. We need to push this thing. And the integration should not happen only at the officers level. It can also happen at the Jawan level. You can have when Jawans go, like for example, of course, they go to Rashtra Rifles, and Jawans go to so many other places for this thing, their EREs and their attachments, etc. Why can't they go to the Navy? Or why can't they go to the Air Force? And there are so many other things that they can do. And this integration has to be top driven down, and it has to feel like one unit, and more than the technical integration, because that is happening. That will take some time to happen. I think emotional integration, maybe what I'm saying is absolute nonsense. Yeah, that's also possible, because I don't have so much of exposure and experience, and maybe what I'm saying is wrong. But maybe out of 10 ideas that are giving, maybe they can take one idea and say that, yeah, okay, 9 ideas are not so good, but one idea I think we can fly with. And I think this is something that needs to be done. There are many domains where postings and transfers of the Army to the Navy and the Air Force, Navy to the Air Force to the Navy, Army to the Navy, Navy to Army, etc., or Air Force to the Army, that can be managed. Though the officer strength of the Army is a lot, and the total fighting strength of the Army is much, much, much larger than the Navy and the Air Force. So it will have to be skewed, because the Army can supply more manpower at any point in time. The Army is, I think, 3 or 4 times larger than the Air Force and the Navy combined. So that is the strength of the Indian Army in terms of numbers. But, this cross posting and transfer, even at... So I'm essentially talking about emotional integration. I'm not talking about, the technical aspects or the strategic aspects of the initiative. Now, Yawm-e-Takbir is something that Pakistan celebrated yesterday. Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday was a Sunday, and while India was looking forward to the IPL final, and while Prime Minister Modi was inaugurating the new parliament, and there was this huge, controversy that some parties said will boycott the opening of the parliament. Of course, that is all baloney and nonsense, because these political parties will be the first ones who will want to sit in the new parliament. So they've just boycotted the inauguration. It's not like they're going to say that we are not going to sit in the new parliament. Of course, they'll sit in the new parliament. They've spent so much of money in elections. They worked so hard to win elections. They worked so hard to win the faith of the people. Finally, it is these member of parliament who have been voted by the people, because the people believed in them. You see, that there is this entire ecosystem of, collection of funds and working hard and serving the people of your constituency. And everybody does that across political parties, BJP or Congress or any other political party. Every member of parliament will do that. There is a certain amount of hard work that is involved, and everybody does that. But this was just, I think, political posturing. Now the parliament is inaugurated, and for the next 100 odd years or 150 years, we'll have this parliament. It's not going anywhere. And the fact of the matter is that these people, whenever the next session happens, they're not going to say that we'll not attend the parliament. Maybe they'll not attend it once or twice. But then they'll finally come around because for how long can you sit outside? So I think this is just political posturing. This is optics and, just things that happen in a democracy. And it's okay. If they want to do it, it's absolutely all right. But coming back to the Yawm-e-Takbir or whatever it's called, Pakistan is celebrating 25 years of nuclear explosions that happened. They did it in Chagai. Now, I don't understand what is the need to celebrate. We never celebrated. It's okay. I mean, we carried out our first explosion not 25 years back. We carried them out almost 46, 47 years back in 1974. 1974, the code word was Buddha Smiles. And when he said Buddha Smiles, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi came to know that India has conducted its first nuclear tests. So India became a nuclear power in 1974. And if you ask anybody which date, they'll not even remember. Because yeah, it's a matter of pride, but it's not something that Indians like to. No country on earth, except for North Korea and Pakistan, nobody talks about nuclear weapons. Nobody talks about it. If you ask an Indian, when was the date of, the nuclear test that happened, when did you do it? He won't know. Even well-informed Indians will not know. They might remember the year, but they're not going to remember dates. In Pakistan, they have it tattooed here on the forehead because that is the only thing that they managed to achieve in 75 years. Apart from the 1992 World Cup victory, there's nothing that, and it gives me so much of, it brings me so much of sadness actually. And when I think about it, that a nation of almost 230, 240 million odd people with no scientific, economic or political or diplomatic achievement to their name. While India celebrated the opening of a new parliament, while India was talking about the IPL, and very recently Tesla said that we're going to start manufacturing in India. They wanted to import. They wanted Indians to import Tesla cars made in China. India said no. Finally, they've come around and said no, we'll make in India. We opened up the Apple store last month. 2 Apple stores, one in BKC in Mumbai and in Saket in New Delhi, and Tata has jumped into manufacturing, and Tata is saying that we'll manufacture Apple phones also. So very, very soon you're going to have a certain Apple ecosystem here, and that means that top of the line phones of the world are going to be manufactured in India because there is nothing that is more premium than Apple smartphone amongst all smartphones in the world, right? We're doing that. We recently launched the electrical EV version of the Mercedes, and so many things are happening in India. And all Pakistan, I'm not comparing India to Pakistan, but there is so much of, I'm genuinely sad when I mention this, that all you have to bring to the table in front of these 230, 240 million people is that, 25 years back we exploded a nuclear device or 6 nuclear devices or whatever it was. How sad that can be. I mean, in India, nobody discussed it. We've just forgotten. Yeah, it was an achievement, but you can't beat the same drum again and again after every year and say that, we did this, we did that. And then, this entire IW campaigns run by the ISPR, information warfare, that had we not done it, India would have gobbled us up and all that. So they keep their people scared. That is what the Pakistani government does. They keep their people afraid all the time. Pakistanis are perpetually living in a climate of fear, perpetually living in a climate of great fear that, India will invade us. And that is what the government keeps on saying. So when people are afraid that India is going to invade you, then they don't ask for basic services like water and electricity and food. And, when you're convinced in your own mind that you're going to die and India will come and India will kill you, for some crazy reason you believe that because that is what your father, your grandfather and your great-grandfather told you, and that is what your governments have been telling you day in and day out, that, and there are so many so-called defense analysts in Pakistan who say that anytime India can cross the border. And I've been watching these analysts for the past 10 years on YouTube, and they say that anytime now India can cross the border. Anytime now. India should have crossed. This guy is actually looking at his watch. And I swear I'm not making any time now India can cross the border. And India has never crossed the border unless provoked. We have no interest in going into Pakistan. There is nothing for us in Pakistan. But, you celebrate Yom. I don't know what is the reason for Pakistan celebrating this. And it says fervently celebrated with a great deal of fervor. This is what the Geo News article says. That the Pakistani people were extremely passionate about this. It's like, normally use the word fervor for religious festivals, like Diwali was celebrated with great religious fervor, or Eid was celebrated with great religious fervor. It's not like we had an explosion 25 years back and we celebrated it with great religious fervor. Nonsensical. But, I mean, what can they say? What can they say? because there is no other achievement. They can't say that, we have made something. Forget about the world that can make Pakistanis proud. They've made nothing at all. But this is something that, they have consistently and constantly tried to say that you're under attack and India will eat you up and India is going to do this and that. Anyway, in another news that is coming is that, JK's Hurriyat conference has said that, Mirwais Omar Farooq of the Hurriyat conference said that, the National Investigation Agency's plea seeking death penalty for separatist leader Yasin Malik is as deeply disturbing, while Apni party leader Altaf Bukhari termed the agency's approach hasty. I mean, there's nothing hasty about it. This man is a criminal. This man is a murderer. He has killed security forces. He is admitted to killing Kashmiri Pandits. This man must die. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind. I don't know why there is so much of confusion and why everybody jumps in to give their own point of view. The point of view of the Hurriyat conference is irrelevant. The Hurriyat conference is irrelevant. And Mirwais, go to Pakistan. So I think, all these people, and I don't know why this Mirwais fellow is outside giving political statements, or he should be in jail. All these people are criminals. These people are people who have sabotaged their own country, and there is enough proof against them. And I think we need the agencies to move faster against them, put them up in court, get them punished, throw them in jail and throw away the keys. Yeah, lock them up and throw away the keys. That is what they deserve. They'll cause harm to the country if these people are outside, And lastly, Bilawal Bhutto, he says Pak state failed. Bilawal Bhutto, I don't even know anymore what this guy says and what he means. Highly immature of, Bilawal Bhutto, but he says that Pak state failed and, basic civic amenities in the country are missing. And he said this in front of his own Prime Minister. He said this in front of Shehbaz Sharif. He says now the nation needs Shehbaz speed. Karachi needs Shehbaz speed. Shehbaz speed is a name for Shehbaz Sharif that the Chinese gave him because he could do projects very fast. But projects require money and Pakistan does not have money. So that speed is useless. You can be as fast as whatever, but if you have no money, then there are no projects. Anyway, basically, he's complaining about water and he's saying that even as the foreign minister, I have to, take water through a tanker. There is no piped water and I have to take water through a tanker. And when the water is put in the tank, then it comes through the pipe. That is what he meant. I'm just explaining it. Not Bilawal Bhutto's exact words, but yes, there is no supply water. It has to come through a separate water tanker, which is like a tanker mounted on a vehicle and it comes and it delivers water at home and you pay for it. And this is not municipality water. Mostly it is private people who do this sort of business. And there are water mafias in Karachi. Friends, slightly different thing that I'm trying to say now here is that while what Bilawal is saying is true, but for generations, Bilawal's family has ruled Sindh. Karachi is in Sindh, and for generations, his family has ruled Sindh. His grandfather, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, his mother, and now he himself. His father, though originally a Baloch, but, part of the Pakistan People's Party, and the Pakistan People's Party has been in power forever and ever in Sindh. And from Larkana, they fight their elections. That is their home turf. And people told me, a Sindhi gentleman told me that the poverty that you see in Larkana is, it takes your breath away, that kind of, in a negative sort of way, you're gasping for breath. He said, this is the state in which people live. And it's not just about poverty, because poverty can be there in many, many countries in the world, not just Pakistan. But the kind of feudal lords that you have in Pakistan who keep people chained, they actually tie human beings like animals. And generations upon generations are forced to work on a certain farm because the Chaudhries or the Vaderas or these people, especially in Sindh and some parts of Punjab, they keep people in bondage and make them work generation after generation. And the Bhutto family is one such family that has done it in terms of keeping people backward deliberately so that their own grasp and grip on power was ironclad. So this is something that Bilawal needs to think upon, that what did his family do, his party do for so many decades? If Karachi cannot get clean drinking water, then what is the Pakistan People's Party doing in power for decades upon decades? So ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please press like, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram, Bharat Mata Ki Jai.